Now, the main story we're covering is, of course, the one that won't go away. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer says Chancellor Rachel Reeves will face no further action over what he called an inadvertent failure to obtain a rental licence for her South London home, coming after Reeves was accused of breaching housing law after moving into number 11 Downing Street last year. Starmer said emails show her husband was assured by estate agents that they would apply for the licence on his behalf. The agency has since apologised, blaming an employee's sudden resignation. Was this the right outcome? Should Rachel Reeves resign? Sebastian, I mean, she's on your side.
Yeah.
She's Labour, she's left, you're Labour, you're left. But this is all a bit, what's the word for it? Not good.
It's an oversight, isn't it?
It's a criminal offence.
Sure, but I mean, look at what really happened. For me, this story died when the estate agent admitted fault. They came in, they apologised because they'd said, don't worry, we'll take care of this. And then the guy who'd said that the next day left his job. So it fell between the cracks within the estate agency. So you can kind of see if an estate agent tells you, don't worry, leave this with me, you can...
Sebastian, if an estate agent tells me not to worry, I would so worry. They're up there with tabloid journalists and second-hand car salesmen.
But they're providing a service, and when they say they're going to do something, you kind of assume they're going to do it. What do we think happened? She deliberately didn't do it.
I don't know, but this woman's running the country. I would have thought she would actually be a little bit more in control of what's going on in her own home.
So firstly, my understanding is it was her husband who was organising all of this, doing the
I blame the husband, definitely.
It's the easy way out. And she was busy becoming the Chancellor for the first time. This was all happening in July last year when Labour had come into power and she had to rent the house out because she was moving into number 11. So I can completely see how this just falls between the cracks, even if you're dealing with it in the domestic setting.
Oh, Jaymey, what do you reckon? A criminal offence falling between the cracks.
Look, it's very easy for an opposition politician to come and batter somebody because they've had an oversight in their personal life. Look, I think it's a terrible look for the Chancellor. I think it's highly embarrassing. I think when you are a Member of Parliament, you should be, checking everything is as perfect as possible. Clearly, the estate agent has admitted fault, although I don't think just because an estate agent says something, you should necessarily just run with it. I think we all know that mistake. Exactly. If anyone has tried to rent somewhere or buy somewhere. But what I would say is it's hilarious watching the Tories calling for her to resign, and this is the reason. I think that Rachel Reeves shouldn't resign. I think Keir Starmer should sack her because of the incompetence she has shown as Chancellor. I don't think she's fit to be Chancellor. I don't think she's actually financially literate enough to be Chancellor. And it's just another thing that the Chancellor has been found to have done wrong. It's highly embarrassing for Keir Starmer. It's another cabinet member that's showing up the government, and it's not hard. I think the bar is very low. But I think the public are sick and tired of seeing this sort of lack of quality from our politicians. I think it's a real shame for the country that such a serious office of state is once again being brought through the news in all the wrong ways.
We're living in a time of what feels like pretty significant social change, and it makes us question things that we've even taken for granted for decades. And one of those at the moment that people are wondering about is actually money. Is the money in your bank account safe? Should you be investing elsewhere? Are we looking at a potential global crash? What will it mean for your savings? Is there a way that you could be using your money that might be outside of government control even? Well, TallyMoney is potentially one solution. So I'm delighted to say that I'm joined today by the CEO and founder of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. What is TallyMoney?
Well, at TallyMoney, you basically get gold you can spend. So we give people an individual account in their name, everyday account. They get a sort code, an account number. They use that account just like they would pounds from their bank, but it's milligrams of gold that we brand as Tally.
Okay. Why would you do that, though? What is the benefit to the customer instead of just having a normal pound sterling account?
Gold's performance against the pound is above 11% per annum over the last 25 years on average. But we still need money in our daily lives, and we have savings. We know that it's good common sense and prudent to save up for things, not just living credit. Whether it's a holiday or a rainy day, your retirement planning, you need to have money in your life, basically, that you can rely on, that's dependable, that nobody meddles with, that nobody can weaponise against you, which is another element of government control when it's the government currency, which we could talk about another time. And it should be pretty simple and straightforward. And that's what we deliver at Tally. And really, we just want people to feel safe and happy with their money. There was a time when the bigger your bank balance, the more confident you felt. Now it's like, I need to do something with it. I can't leave it there. In Tally, you can.
Okay, brilliant. Cameron Parry from TallyMoney, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bev.
I have to disagree. You saw what happened when it looked like she might resign for a moment. We all remember that day where she was sat on the benches in tears. The markets went haywire because they were so worried about the reality of not having Rachel Reeves in number 11.
Hold on, Sebastian, sorry. So we keep someone who's been accused of being incompetent, I'm not saying she is, in her post purely because we're worried about upsetting the markets.
No, so I was responding specifically to Jaymey's point about
policies are wrecking the markets,
Reeves being
Sebastian.
a terrible chancellor, as he says. Sorry, the policies are wrecking the markets.
Rachel Reeves as Chancellor,
Yeah.
Forget the markets and forget the big business right now. Think of ordinary working people. They are the ones that are suffering. Pensioners are the ones that are suffering.
And they have been for 17 years now.
Have. And your party promised they'd come in and sort it out, and they haven't. They've made things far worse for people.
If you thought that could have been done in a year, that shows, I'm really sorry to say, a certain level of naivety.
Where in the Labour Party election broadcast did it mention that pensioners would lose their winter fuel payment? Where did it say that young people still struggle to get on the housing ladder and you'd build all these homes that haven't even started to be built yet? The problem is people don't trust the Labour Party because you fundamentally betrayed them. You said you would look after this country, and one of the first decisions that Rachel Reeves did as Chancellor is steal the winter fuel payment from some of the most vulnerable in our society. I'm sorry, that is not a Chancellor that you should have faith in.
I don't want to get sidetracked by winter fuel. I think we got it right in the end. It had to come down, and it's at the right level now because we, for years and years and years, have been prioritising older, richer people in society.
Richer?
In an economy like this, pensioners, broadly, are much richer than younger people. Yes, they are.
No, they're
yes,
not.
they are. Do you know the number of pensioners who are millionaires? Compare that to the number of young people.
This is just like the mask slips, doesn't it? It's so hard to listen to. Pensioners forget the fact that they've contributed their entire life to the country, and I think they deserve to get something back from the government when they've contributed so much, especially when they see their country going down the drain. Pensioners are the lifeblood of our high streets, of our local economies, all of which are being wrecked. And this is obviously on the Tories, don't get me wrong, but the idea that pensioners should miss out on their winter fuel payment just because some of them might be rich, I'm sorry, this is the typical kind of prejudice.
Why not means test it?
Well, irrelevant.
No, perfectly relevant. Incredibly relevant.
It's not relevant at all.
Incredibly relevant. Why not means test it?
Anybody that gets to...
Answer my question. Why not means test it?
I'll give you an answer. When they've worked their entire life and contributed to this country, not just financially, but socially too, I think it's a wonderful thing that as a society, through taxation, we're able to look after some of the oldest in our society.
So if I'm a millionaire and I'm old, I should have my energy bills paid
on
for.
Property, just because somebody lives in £1 million house in London.
I'm not saying no. If I have £5 million in cash sitting on a pile here, you would give me another few £100 in
be up to that
winter fuel.
individual.
No. You're talking about government policy here.
Yeah.
You want to bring back winter fuel. So if I am a multi-millionaire and I happen to be old, you would give me more money. That is a completely erroneous way to spend money.
Affluent enough and they're not worried about bills in an example that you're giving there, then that person can quite happily return that money to the government.
Of course they can, but you're saying you would give it to them.
Many people in that position don't use the
Answer my question. Would you give it to them?
Freedom of choice. I believe in freedom of choice.
But we're talking about government policy here.
Pensioners.
Why are you giving out money to millionaires? We're not in the position to be able to do that. We are not a wealthy country at the moment.
You think somebody that's just got a nice house and their mortgage is paid off is somehow rich, which is many pensioners.
If I had a few £100s to give to someone in this country, I would not give it to a millionaire pensioner. I would give it to somebody who is genuinely in need.
I would never support a policy that robs the winter fuel payment from a veteran, which is what your government did, and it's embarrassing. It's a shame.
It is at the right level now, £35,000. If you earn less than that, you get the winter fuel, and that is the right thing to do.
Anything above that's rich, is it?
No,
Really?
I'm not saying that. You're putting words into my mouth now.
Well, that's what you were hinting earlier.
Well, please take me at my word rather than trying to guess what I'm trying to say.
A veteran that served the armed forces in this country that's on 36 grand shouldn't get the winter fuel payment, is what you're saying there.
I'm saying anybody above 35,000 shouldn't get that. They get many other things. They get many other things, but I would not give money to millionaires. They don't need it. We don't have the money to be flowing around like that.
That is why you're plummeting the polls. So out of touch.
Really?
So out of touch. This is the problem. And that's why the Chancellor should be sacked. in my opinion.
But look at what Reform has come up with. The spending plan that came was completely savage because the numbers just didn't add up. So it's very easy to stand from outside and to snipe and to criticise at the woman who I think has the hardest job in the country at the moment. But I haven't seen, and none of us have seen, a credible alternative from you.
Well, she's just paid to give away our overseas territory that we own. Where do you want to... This is...
Where's that come from? I'm talking about reform economic policy. You're changing the topic. I can understand why you'd want to change the topic. I wouldn't want to talk about it either.
I've done the winter fuel payment pretty well. I'm moving on to another chaos in the Chancellor's...
Well, I'm trying to talk about reform policy here. You've come here to represent your party. Yeah. I want to hear what you do on the economy.
Well, I think you know exactly what we'll do with the economy. We'll actually make Britain thrive again and stop all of the people that are going to grow our economy from leaving the country.
How?
We would start by making sure that we actually get entrepreneurship back on its feet again.
How?
Well, actually, unlike the Labour Party, we understand business. It's very straightforward.
Give me policies, Jaymey. You're talking in rhetoric. Your party is so good at that.
We will stop overtaxing entrepreneurs that are trying to make a start. We would not make it impossible to employ people, which is what your party does.
How?
With your own policies. Frankly, we've pretty much reversed anything that Labour
You've not named me a
is doing.
single policy. You're talking in complete abstract terms.
We are a government in waiting, and our policy announcements have been fantastic. The Brit card for a loan is a fantastic.
Your policies have been savaged by economic journalists because they don't add up. Your economic credibility is shot. Polling shows people don't trust you on the economy.
Is this all the economic journalists that said that Brexit would be a disaster and it's been a fantastic thing for our country? You know, I'm not being funny, but I don't take any advice from those sorts of people.
It's people who know how to add up, and they are coming back and saying that your numbers simply don't.
Left-wing economic journalists like to write for The Guardian are not the people I look for advice.
So let's get back on topic. Give me a policy. What's it going to be?
Well, I think our Brit card is a fantastic one. It lifts some of the poorest people in our country out of poverty, and it helps ensure we attract the brightest and the best business people to invest in this country. That was one of our first policies that we announced. And you're right, we are a government in waiting, and you will see lots more economic policy come from us. Absolutely. And actually, you can just look at what we're doing on a local level. When you look at the way we're dealing with the local...
Raising council tax by the maximum amount.
No,
after standing on a pledge to cut it, you are raising it. You are doing the polar opposite.
We are rooting out the horrific waste and inefficiency.
You haven't found any rate. Look at Kent, it's your flagship council. So why are you having to raise council tax? So why are you putting more of a burden on residents?
As a councillor, you should know that the budgets aren't even set yet. So the idea that you can speculate on council tax is ridiculous. As a councillor, you should know that.
The cabinet member for education in Kent spoke to the Telegraph and said it's looking like we're going to have to increase it by the maximum amount.
Well, I'm sure you're aware there's a thing called inflation, but more to the point...
So hang on, this is really simple. Let's pin this down. They stood on a platform to cut council tax.
We are a low tax party. We want to cut council tax.
Brilliant.
Why we are
fantastic.
Rid of
so why then is Kent talking about putting it up by the maximum amount?
Every single council has a civic duty to look at all options when you're dealing with a budget. You're a councillor, you should
Jaymey,
know this.
You're dodging my question.
I'm not dodging your...
Yes, you are.
Well,
here we go. I'll give you another chance to answer it.
Fine.
Why, after having said they would cut taxes, are they doing the opposite and talking about raising them?
We are a low tax party.
Jaymey, you're again dodging my question with the same answer.
We are a low tax party, and councillors in Kent are working round the clock to make sure that the people of Kent get value for money. We can't help the demands that are coming all over the place because your government hasn't got a plan to deal with some of the basic things like SCND, adult social...
OK, so it's clear then. In Kent, Reform stood on a lie.
No,
they said they would cut taxes and they've done the opposite.
We are a low tax party and we are rooting out...
In theory, but in practice you're not, because you're talking about putting taxes up. You can't call yourself a low tax party.
Councils, you like to bankrupt your councils, don't you? You're very good at doing that as a
You're
party.
now changing the topic. You're trying to avoid scrutiny, Jaymey.
I'm not avoiding scrutiny.
You are, because I've asked you the same question twice and you've dodged it twice, and it's not making Kent look very good as a council. And do you know why this is important? Because this is the first time you've been in power. And what have you done? You've messed it up. You've done exactly the opposite of what you told residents you would do. And I hope that when they come to vote again at the next election, they will remember that.
In just 6 months, we have turned some of those councils around in the most extraordinary way. I'm proud.
And that's why you're putting taxes up, is it?
No, we're not, because you wouldn't know what we were doing because the budgets aren't even set.
Well, why
know that as a councillor.
Why, Jaymey, are your councillors even talking about putting tax up?
Because we are a responsible party that is looking at every option.
But you said you were going to put it down.
Those councils, unlike Labour, who bankrupt them.
I do think when we're talking about political promises, Labour are on a little bit dodgy ground. I mean, some of the manifesto pledges weren't really holding much water.
But again, Dawn, you're changing the topic. We have to.
No, you're talking about keeping promises, and Labour haven't done that.
I'm talking about holding reform to account. It's really important. It's their first chance to show what they can do, and they have messed it up.
Councils are nowhere near setting their budgets yet, so you should know this.
Then why are your cabinet members talking about taxing the press?
You will grab anything that you read.
Why have they?
You will touch anything. Like you've just quoted some figures that are just totally wrong.
Well, they've come out of the mouth of your councillors.
No, but this is.
Well, they have. Have they or have they not?
Have they been spoken about in the council chamber? No.
OK, gentlemen, I'm going to...
It's irrelevant. I don't care whether they're written on a blackboard or communicated in semaphore. They've been said.
Because no one believes Labour politicians.
Right, anyways, we're going to have to move on to another subject here, which I'm